Hey creative, if you want your samples to sound clean and pro in a regular home studio, you don't need to buy another expensive mic. All that does is record your room problems in higher quality. So today I'm going to show you how to build a simple set of movable acoustic panels to make your recording sessions sound pro. And you can DIY them in 2 days max and with just basic tools. Here's the difference they made in this room. This is the test setup for my freestanding acoustic panels. I'm Dominic, sound engineer with 10 years of experience in sample library production and creator of Build Record Share. Here I build VST instruments and record them at home, and this is the same DIY treatment I rely on to build high quality sample libraries without the perfect studio. Let's jump right in. Alright, narrator Dominic here. While Builder Dominic cuts all the wood in the background, let me tell you about the biggest mistake people make with acoustic panels. They only picture wall panels, and that's it. The result is people thinking acoustic treatment means exclusively treating the whole room, which honestly was my instinct too, until very recently. You see, I'm about to sample a vintage 70s organ, but there is no way it fits in my tiny rec room, and I definitely spent way too long trying to think my way around that, including taking the whole instrument apart and somehow reducing its footprint, which, thank God, is not what this video is about. Because in the end I knew I had to move the project to a bigger space instead. The problem was that space is actually just a home gym and of course not treated at all. So suddenly I was dealing with a completely different kind of recording situation and I needed to make recording in this untreated room feasible somehow. That meant I needed something flexible, something I could adapt and reuse for future projects. And that's what led me to freestanding acoustic panels. This approach really made sense. They would be flexible, movable, and effective right where the recording actually happens. But the deeper I looked into it, the more I realized the acoustics also supported building freestanding panels. Because a freestanding absorber positioned around the sound source works like this. It helps on the first pass, and whatever gets through it can still bounce around the room, scatter, lose energy, and get absorbed on another pass before it ever reaches the microphone. So the practical solution also turned out to be the more efficient one. By the way, my design exclusively uses foam as the absorber material, with foam sheets glued to the front and back and foam scraps stuffed in between. I chose to use foam because it's just so incredibly light and movability is a top priority for this build. If you want to build your own panels, I've put everything you need into a PDF, it's linked first in the video description. Anyway, enough theory, here's the simple construction process. Okay, all of the wood for the frames is cut. And no mistakes have been made so far, which is always good. This is the size of one panel with me for size reference. And right now we're going to screw in angle irons in all of the corners of the frame. For this step you really want to be on an even surface. So I moved inside and we're going to screw the angles in here. With the frame done, we move on to mounting the stands right to the edge of the frame, with again 2 angle irons on each side of the stand. And with the stands mounted, I thought that the panels are ready for the next step, which would have been gluing foam sheets to one side of the frame, but of course actually building the thing is confronting your plans with reality. And I've noticed right away that this is not going to be enough to hold back the foam that is going to be stuffed inside of this. So I've bought this mesh And this is going to be an extra layer between the frame and the foam on the outside. Then I'm filling the frame with the foam scraps, which, by the way, are a total mess to work with and come with a bit of a compromise in efficiency, but are way cheaper than full foam boards, and I really liked using a waste product to fill the panels with. But my disclaimer is, if you want the construction to be easier, definitely go for full boards of foam or another material instead, especially if you're not so concerned about the weight of the finished panels. If you also want to use foam scraps though, this step of introducing vibration to the panel is crucial, because you want them to fill in the whole space as tightly as possible, but without actually compressing the foam, as compression would decrease its ability to absorb sound. Last and also optional step for this build is mounting small rollers to the stands. This will make quickly positioning the panels very easy. Now that all the panels are built, it's time to run a few tests, a voice demo, a clap test and room acoustic measurements. So let's take a quick look at the setup. For the measurements, I placed the speaker where I'm standing for the clap and voice tests. It plays a sweep from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, and put simply, the software then compares the sweep to what gets picked up by the measurement microphone. This is the test setup for my freestanding acoustic panels. For the acoustic measurements, I'm using a free program called Room EQ Wizard. It can measure all kinds of different acoustic properties, but in this video we're just focusing on the RT60 tab. RT stands for reverberation time, which basically tells you how long it takes different frequencies to fade away in the room. So this is what the graph looks like without the panels, and this is what it looks like with the panels in place. And if we overlay both graphs, it becomes much easier to see the difference that we already noticed in the clap and voice tests. On average, the panels reduced the reverb across the whole frequency range by about 200 milliseconds, with the biggest reduction of 430 milliseconds at around 100 Hz. By the way, that remaining peak at around 60 Hz is most likely caused by a standing wave at the microphone position. After doing some more testing, I'm planning to target that specific frequency with a tuned bass trap or a resonator in addition to those panels. Overall, I'm very happy with how they turned out, because in the beginning I really wasn't sure if using foam scraps instead of the full boards to fill the panels with would turn out to be a huge mistake and just wouldn't make enough of a difference. But This design works really well in generally reducing room echo, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve, so that's awesome. Quick reminder, the PDF with all the info and instructions is linked first in the video description. Until next time.